I have not been here since that day.
After it happened, I was getting so many different responses from friends, people in my social circle, in person and on social media. Things like, there must be more to the story. Things like, I never knew this happened until you shared it. And it was really like I was living in some sort of sociological experiment, realizing that in our really segregated social networks, that white people aren't talking about this. There are statistics that say, and social media, if you're white, your network is likely 93% white, and you're only sharing about race very little. So one of the things that we believe is that the reason my video went viral was because I'm white and I shared it, and that it bridged the networks. And, you know, that's sort of evidenced by the responses also.
I see you nodding your head, Michelle.
Yeah. Yes, because, you know, in our networks, in Black networks, we see this stuff happening all the time. And it's fascinating to me. People still, even my friends, you know, well, what else happened that day? Nothing. And so we want people to know what racism looks like today. It's systemic, and so it's built into the fabric of our society, our every single day lives. And so we just want people to be aware of it so that they can help. Because we know people out there want to help, but you need to see the problem. You need to be able to recognize it so you can stop it in its tracks.
The impact of my white friends not wanting to have the conversation with me about race, the impact of that was actually silencing for me. I did not want to, I'm leaving Black, I didn't want to talk about race because I felt like no one cared. I felt like every time I did bring it up, I wasn't believed. Every time I did bring it up, I was maybe exaggerating. And not that my friends thought that I was a liar, but because they could not see the world the way that I saw it, it was really hard for us to have those conversations. And I knew that they loved me, but their intent on not wanting to hurt me actually made me feel like they didn't care about the part of me that was like the biggest part of me, what I thought about and what I went through all the time. And the same town that they loved was the same town that sometimes I would be scared to walk outside my door.
So I know you guys are all involved in a corporate environment, and you know, this whole wonderful day is about talking about how we can change, improve corporate culture. But what Michelle and I believe is that you cannot do that until you start with yourself, with the individual, and that requires some measure of being able to be vulnerable, to look at yourself and to be self-reflective about how you were brought up and the way you were taught. We call our organization for Privilege to Progress. That word privilege is really triggering for white people, right? But the truth is when you look at that word, and instead of looking at it as an accusation or blame or getting defensive about it, you can actually turn it around and say, okay, well, I have this privilege because of the skin I was born into by no fault of my own, right? I have this. And I think Michelle would say, she doesn't blame you for having privilege. No, she just wants it too. She just wants it too, right? And the way that happens is for us to be actively part of the solution.
You care about being a compassionate human being, caring about our country and caring about other people, then it's incumbent upon you to examine where your privilege lies, wherever that is on that spectrum of privilege, and to use it for the greater good.
You know, white people are tired of hearing the stories, but we're tired of living it. If you want to see racism dismantled, you have to show up to the conversation. You have to get involved. You hear it all the time, and I just want to emphasize to people that they think that they don't see racism, but they do. They just don't recognize it. And so you have to educate yourself in order to know what it looks like today.
Tell me what you're doing. What's the strategy? What's the plan to get people? Because I've been reporting on race for a long time.
Yes.
Everybody doesn't want to talk to you all the time, right? People roll their eyes.
Yes.
They're like, oh, God, I'm a good person. Come on. We're only talking about, I'm not in the KKK. So ergo, I'm not a racist, right? I mean, it's like the third rail of dinner party conversations to talk about race. It really is. So what are you doing?
You know, that quote that it's not enough to be not racist, you have to be anti-racist. And we want white people to understand that they need to be part of the solution.
At the very least, what I want is for white people and all people to look inside themselves and check yourself on a regular basis. Ask what kind of implicit biases that you might have and work towards that.
Melissa and I are two regular people, but we got Starbucks to close 8,000 stores to do unconscious bias training. And I realized that day, yeah, pretty awesome. I realized that day how powerful my voice is, and every one of us here has that same power.